All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to our September edition of our here at Startup Grind Louisville. Wow, what beautiful weather we have in the city this week, too. I mean, it's been so hot and crazy, and it feels like fall is already here. I'm not sure about you all, but I am really ready for fall weather to get here. It's been so hot. So we're very grateful that you made time out of your day to be here. If you aren't watching this live, obviously you're watching the recording of this. We're very excited to hear JoCari and his story, and we think it's going to have a lot of value for those in the ideation stage of their business or just getting started. So we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But before we get into our conversation, two things. Number one, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors for this event. Number one, Amplify Louisville. They're our annual presenting sponsors. So a lot of these events that we have are made possible because of them and their contribution to us. We've also got a new local partner, and that is Citation Labs. And they have a lot of great tools and resources for people that are marketing their businesses. And we're going to be hearing from them at a future event on how they go through and do that. So again, big shout out to Amplify and also the folks at Citation Labs for making this possible here for us. And also, this is the first time that we are using Startup Grind's Beattie platform. So for those of you that are just now getting access, I apologize if you had any hiccups or challenges on figuring out how to get access to this. We will work with Startup Grind going forward to make sure it's a little bit smoother of a process and figure out where there were any hiccups or challenges along that way. I know whenever you bring on a new technology, especially when you do it live like this, that there's always going to be challenges and unforeseen things that arise, and we are certainly experiencing that for today. But in true startup and entrepreneur fashion, we are not going to let that stop us. You know, it reminded me of the pitch battle that we had last month. Some of the folks that were doing their pitches had some challenges and just some adversity to overcome, and that's just kind of the way you got to roll. And part of startup life, it's just the way it goes. So JoCari, how are you today, my friend?
I'm great, feeling good, being productive as possible.
You know, it's interesting, those words, they ring and resonate so true in this time of COVID, because I don't think anybody is as productive as they were pre-COVID. There's so many distractions, so many things to worry about. You know, I posted on my social media channel and actually an email earlier this week that all three of my kids are back to in-person learning. And I assumed that my productivity and my focus would just snap back like it was pre-COVID once that they were off to school and all that. And that hasn't been the case. There have been some days where I've been hyper productive and other days sluggish. And I just kind of likened it to riding a bicycle. You know, your body knows how to do it, but you got to get that muscle memory back and stuff like that. But yeah, it's difficult to be productive in this current environment. So let's talk a little bit about your story and your background. My first question for you is, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur? Is that something that you feel like you've always wanted it to do? Was there a problem that you saw that really motivated you down that path? What was the catalyst that started you thinking about, forming JoBé Products?
Well, initially, I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was. So I knew at one point I wanted to be an inventor. So what I did was I bought an invention book, which was just a regular notebook, and I'll write down problems that I'll find and then come up with a solution. And just I would constantly do that. And then one day I just had a problem of being in a location where I wanted to do some homework, but there wasn't any tables or anything to do work. So I was like, maybe I have a solution for that. So I came up with a solution for that, and I saw that it actually didn't exist in the world yet. So I went down the road of developing a product, and then later on it turned into, oh, you probably need a business to like sell this product. So that's how I kind of got into entrepreneurship.
Okay, gotcha. So when you were looking for this idea, looking for the book, searching for the products, or searching for ideas about how to become an entrepreneur, what kind of resources or people did you turn to ask questions, or did you focus on just trying to find solutions and problems to solve first?
I'd say initially it was all about having a problem, finding a solution to it. Almost all of my resources were books. There's no one, when I was first starting out, no one in my family who was an entrepreneur. No one really developed from anything from an idea to actual physical product. So most of my research was done on either going through YouTube to look up which books should I read, Google what books I should read, and then literally becoming a bookworm every day, nonstop, and just learning as much as I can. If I needed to know about branding books, sales books, how to do a startup, literally 0 to 1, I just read books nonstop.
That's awesome. We share something very common in that regard. So I've got an MBA, but looking back, I still attribute most of my learning to actually reading books. So I'm a bookworm too. I mean, I read all the time. I love to do that. In fact, I started a book club for entrepreneurs and people who want to come in and read and, talk about various things that they're reading and discussing. But I share that with you that there's so much information out there if people just go and research it. But it's not just the reading of the books I found, it's applying what you've learned. I mean, knowledge today is easy to come by, but it's the execution and the application of that knowledge what really separates those who win and those who don't. So I'm curious, is there any one book that has really propelled you forward and really made a huge impact on you, or has it just been a bunch of them?
Well, I buy probably 20 books at a time.
Okay.
I go and I buy a bulk of books. Most of them have been startup books, but I say the one that I've enjoyed the most, which also helped motivate, was it wasn't necessarily a book about startups, but it was Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Okay.
Just to kind of see someone who started with an idea and how he grew his business and how many struggles he went through. And it's, okay, I'm not the only one out here going through all these struggles, and just to see how he scaled up kind of motivated me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's funny. I still to this day have not read that book. I've heard so many people talk about how awesome of a book it is, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it. So with you making that recommendation, I think I'm going to have to make time to go through and do that. So you were a college athlete, correct? Tell us a little bit about your experience of being a college athlete and what kind of sports you played, and what, if any, impact do you think that had in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Okay. So originally I'm from Kentucky. That's also where I reside, born in Lexington, raised in Louisville. Fortunately, I was able to win the state championship 3 times in track and field and the high jump.
Oh, wow.
I was able to get a scholarship to college. I wanted to go to a school that was really far away, because I feel like everyone here is from Louisville, raised in Louisville, but I wanted the opportunity to live somewhere else and then decide if I wanted to come back. So one of the furthest schools was Lake Erie College in Northern Ohio, where we had great jumpers, All-Americans every year. And after that, I transferred to Florida A&M to continue to high jump and pursue a different major. It was a balancing act at that point, because that was the point where I knew I wanted to pursue Besk, and having to go through school, to track practice, to weight room, to homework, to developing a product and doing it all over again. It took a lot of hours, but it was very enjoyable. One thing that I can say about being in athletics in college is as soon as you go into college, you're a part of a unit, so you don't have to wander around for a while and try to figure out who to associate yourself with. You're already kind of initially put into a group, which helps out socially.
Sure, I bet. So being a college athlete, was it more fun or less fun than it was when you were in high school competing? Because I've heard some people say both ways. For some folks, it all became almost business once they got to college and the fun and the joy was out of it. But I've heard other people say the opposite. So what was that experience like for you?
I'd say I definitely enjoyed college athletics more than high school athletics. And I say that's primarily just because we got to travel so much.
Mm.
Being at Florida A&M, we went to a lot of schools in Florida, Georgia, all the way up to Maryland, and those road trips are just a lot of fun. And then that freedom to hang out with your teammates outside of school and still bond, and we even had like a track house, which where all the track athletes, either majority of them stayed, but it's also somewhere that we can just always go and hang out with each other, which was very enjoyable.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, excellent. So tell us about the moment. Let's get really focused here on that moment when the idea popped up and you said, hey, I need something to help me do my homework. I'm in this place. Just take us back to the moment or the moments where you really started to formulate the idea of Besk. And then let's go through and tell us exactly what Besk is.
Definitely. So in 2014, while I was a student at Lake Erie College, there weren't many churches nearby. It's a really small town. So I really got into riding bikes. So I would ride my bike to the beach and watch the sunrise off of Lake Erie. And I would go all the way toward the end of the beach where they're just large boulders and just pray, meditate, and decompress at the beach. And one time I just had the overwhelming feeling of this would be a great place to do some homework. Just to sit here, I'm so relaxed. And I said, okay, I have my backpack with me because everywhere I go, I keep my backpack. And I was like, what else do I need? I said, it'd be kind of awkward to write and do homework right here. So I said, I need maybe like a little desk station, a little workstation. That'd be kind of cool. So I had my invention book with me at the time. So I wrote down backpack that turns into a workstation clipboard. So I went back to my dorm afterwards. I was like, this is probably a really cool thing to buy. So I went on Amazon. I said, hold up, this doesn't exist. So I went on Google. And I was like, I still can't find it. So I was like, this might be one of those things I'll be able to create potentially one day. So that's how that all came to my mind.
Wow, that's really cool. So that's 2014. So we're now almost 6 years later. Kind of tell us about how you went from that idea in 2014 to just now getting fully funded on Kickstarter. Like, what has that process been like? 6 years it's a long time, but then again, it's a short period of time. Just walk us through the various stages and the things that you went through to get to where you had that first MVP product.
Definitely. So after my first thought of, oh, I can make this backpack that turns into a desk, I drew it up and I started showing people. I was like, what do you think about this? They're like, it doesn't make sense to me. I was like, no, it's a backpack and a desk. And they're like, that doesn't make sense. I ended up transferring to Florida A&M, and I was thinking to myself, I should probably try to make one of these to see if it's even possible, because it doesn't exist, so it may not be possible. So I started to get some pretty cheap materials. Initially, I started out with yardsticks and some plywood and a drill, which I used to have to drill hundreds of holes in a row and then break the plywood, then use sandpaper. I didn't have fingerprints for a while. And then buy brackets to attach the yardsticks as legs. And I showed them some of my first prototype. They said, that is not a backpack. That's not a desk. I was like, I know, but it's the beginning of one. And ever since that day, I just had to make sure I had to be as resourceful as possible, because obviously if you're in college and an athlete, you're not getting much money in your pocket. So whenever I was able to earn some money, I was like, okay, I want to buy a better material, better wood, maybe some more tools, actual sander, so I have fingerprints from now on. And other than that, I just try to be as resourceful as possible throughout the whole thing, building every single prototype until the one that we saw during the Kickstarter.
Wow. How many prototypes have you gone through from that first model to where we've got on Kickstarter?
8.
Eight?
8 prototypes.
Wow. So I'm very curious, when you're talking about how you built this thing, especially the initial one, like, where did the plans come through? Did you sketch it out in your book? Like, do you have like an engineering degree? Did you use some kind of a CAD program, or did you just sketch it out, or how did you build this initial thing?
So initially, I transferred to Florida A&M to become a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because I ran track, I wasn't able to due to NCAA rules. You have to have a certain percentage of your degree completed in order to compete. So I wasn't able to major in mechanical engineering like I wanted to. But I feel like I do still have like an engineering mind where I like to take stuff apart. I always say if Christmas Day was the second best day, the day after Christmas was the best, where I get to take all my toys apart and try to build robots out of
Oh, wow.
them. So what I would do was draw everything multiple times because I know I had limited funds. So I needed to make sure all the drawings made sense because I didn't have material to spare. And I would watch videos on how certain products work together and how certain things move before I would cut or fold or do anything with any material. So it was kind of art mixed with engineering. My degree is actually in interdisciplinary studies with a concentration in quantitative analysis and social science with a minor in psychology.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. It definitely is.
So I am so impressed. So, JoCari, I do not have a mechanical mind at all. And as you're sitting here, even talking through the process that you created this thing basically from scratch and looking from drawings and looking at YouTube videos and stuff like that, that is just amazing to me how you were able to do that. So kudos to you for that. And also being so scrappy, right? You did what you could with what you had. And I think that is a very wise thing for so many entrepreneurs, even folks that have ideas, but don't think that they've got the tools or the resources to get started. You're an example, JoCari, of you do what you do, right? And you do it with what you have. You find a way, you scrap. And if you don't have sandpaper, then you just don't have fingertips for a little while, right? Or fingerprints, right? I mean, that's the true heart of the entrepreneur. And the thing is that whether this product goes on to be hugely successful or it's the next one or the fifth one or whatever, the lessons that you've learned about how to be scrappy in this phase are just going to be hugely valuable. That's going to serve you for the rest of your life. So I love hearing that resourcefulness. Now, as you were going through these different iterations, I'm curious to know, so you saw a product or something that needed to be solved for you to meet a need. So as you were going through all these different iterations, what were you doing from a idea to understand what the market really wants and what the market needs? So how much market research were you doing in this process to find out, the size of the desk or how people would use it or whatever? Like, how did you arrive at the current version of the Besk product today with interacting with people who may use it?
Okay. So that happened over quite a few years and it's still continuing. My first couple functional prototypes where it was actually a backpack and it turned into a desk. I would ask people while I was in school at Florida A&M, mostly teammates and a couple people from my classes from business class, whether we're going to a track meet and we're sitting in bleachers, but we still have to be students and still get our work done. I would show people, hey, look at this backpack that kind of turns into a desk and you can do your homework in the bleachers with you. And I'll talk to them about that. And then eventually I learned a little more where I wasn't supposed to show people my product to get that research. And most of that discovery was done here in Louisville after I graduated, where I would go to places where I feel like my target market would be. So I would go to such as Louisville waterfront, and I'd find someone doing some homework at a bench. I ask them what they're doing, why they're there, how often do they go to the park, why do they like doing their homework at the park, and why are they doing their homework in a specific spot, to figure out whatever pain points they may have. If that's, I'm just sitting in a spot just because there's a picnic table right here, but I really like the view from that bench over there closer to the water or those stairs. And then I would ask more questions about how large of a surface do you need? What type of stuff do you hold in your backpack? What tools do you need to get your work done? And how often you may need something like that?
Well, so you said something I'm curious. You said that along this way, that when you're doing market discovery, that you don't want to show them the product. Kind of expand on that a little bit about how you learned that lesson, in specifically from your perspective, why you don't want to show them the product when you're getting that feedback from folks.
I feel like initially, if you show them the product, they may already kind of know where you're going, and they may just want to please you, such as, oh yeah, that's a cool product. I'll probably buy something like that. And then the time comes around when it's to buy a product like that, and you're like, nah, I probably wouldn't spend money on that now.
Yep.
So I try to do more of figure out the pain points of everybody to make sure this product fills those needs to make life easier for the end consumer. And just talk to people. That's what I like to do. I like to talk to people, figure out what they need, what they're lacking, and how to make things better. My business, JoBé Products, is all about creating innovative products that help people in their everyday lives. So if I see a pain point with somebody and we feel like we can have the potential to innovate a product to make it easier for the end consumer, that's what we want to do.
Yeah. Okay. So from the initial idea to where you are now with your Kickstarter product, how much did the feedback you got from prospective customers, how much did that change the product from your initial idea to what it is now? How much has it changed? And what have you learned from people you've interviewed that's really surprised you that you maybe didn't think about on the initial idea?
A lot. The product has changed a lot, whether it's the durability. Initially, we were using wood, and people were, well, maybe we need to make it lighter. I said, okay, maybe I can hollow the wood out. I drink coffee. Well, if I spill coffee on it? You're right. So we kind of transferred into plastic, recycled plastic, where it's a lot more durable. Seeing what size backpack people would want to wear. Initially, one of them we had looked like a huge garbage can on someone's back, which people did not like at all. So we had to adjust the size, the shape of the backpack to make it more socially acceptable and not so futuristic or different looking. And adjust the height. Some people, they would sit on a standing chair or bench all the time, and then some people may say, I'd like to use it while standing. That's what I like to do. I like to stand and do work, or I like to do art. I like to sit on the ground. So just to make it, that height adjust to fit all those different people at the same time, whether it is someone's say, I travel a lot. Can I take it into the airport? So we had to adjust the materials that it's made out of to make sure it's acceptable into an airport.
Gotcha. So let me ask you, I was curious with the Besk product. So obviously it's the desk and the backpack, but how much storage space does it have? So if I wanted to have my laptop or school books or whatever tools I needed for that day, can they fit back there too, or will that be a separate backpack or bag I'll have to bring with me?
So we like to call Besk a fully functioning backpack that turns into a fully functioning desk.
Oh, wow.
So when we say a backpack, it's truly a backpack where you can have your laptop, up to a 16-inch laptop inside, textbooks, folders. It also has built-in folders to it, multiple organizational pockets that are inside as well, so you can keep everything separate from each other. The laptop sleeve that's embedded also stretches to make sure it stays really tight inside, so your laptop doesn't bounce around. And made out of a really high quality fabric to make sure it doesn't get scratched up as well, because nobody likes our scratched up laptops. But yeah, it's a fully functioning backpack. One thing that we really wanted to make sure people understood was that when it's your backpack and you need it as a desk and you're transforming it, you don't have to take anything out to transform it. So you'll have to sit down, push your button, adjust the legs, get it to where you need, and everything that was inside your backpack is now inside your desk. Kind of like an elementary school desk that's a cubby, and you just reach inside and you can put your stuff up on top.
Wow, that is absolutely remarkable. I had no idea that that's the way that that really works. So that's fantastic. Well, the innovation behind that is extraordinary. So let's go forward and talk a little bit now about Kickstarter. You as an early stage entrepreneur, I think it's great for people to get an idea on what it's like to be that early stage entrepreneur. And I know many people have questions about Kickstarter and how it works and stuff like that. So my first question is, why did you choose Kickstarter over another one of the crowdfunding platforms out there?
All right, so I was introduced to Kickstarter during my college days at Florida A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story, I've only failed one class in my life, and it was due to Kickstarter because it was the final, and I think I had a low B at the time, and the final was to post a Kickstarter and just have it operate for like 5 days, or live for 5 days, and mine would not post. And I was actually trying to post Besk on there at the time, and this is like 2016, and it wouldn't post. I tried it from my professor's computer, my personal computer, library computer. It would not work, so it didn't post, and I actually failed due to Kickstarter. But it's all right. I took the class again and got an A, and I got another really great professor. So I chose Kickstarter just because I was pretty familiar with it. I went through the process of inputting all the information to go through a live campaign. I did a lot of research in college on how Kickstarter works as well. Throughout that class, it was principles of business management. And I kind of still had that chip on my shoulder where I just failed this class, which was my first class I've ever failed, and only class I ever failed in my life. So I was like, if I'm able to do a successful Kickstarter, I feel like that'll take that hurt away just a little bit. So just because I knew there's other crowdfunding sites, but I was most familiar with Kickstarter.
Got it. So what have been some of the lessons you've learned going through this initial campaign cycle and getting your product funded that if you do this again in the future for another product or whatever, what would you do differently based on what you've learned this time?
What would I do differently? I feel like, well, first I like to say I think we did a pretty great job on this Kickstarter, but we did learn a lot. Our Kickstarter campaign ran 45 days, and we were able to meet our goal. But a couple things, such as using the high quality photos, high quality video, to make sure we are pretty high in Kickstarter standards.
Mm-hmm.
We found out my first video on there was phone recorded. Our photos were shot by phone, so they weren't really high resolution. So they weren't as pushed by Kickstarter as other high quality stuff. So in the first day, we were over 25% funded, we were number one in the US at the time. That's pretty cool. But then we dropped a lot once they analyzed our stuff and saw we weren't as high quality as a lot of the other stuff on there. So we had to push a lot of our own traffic to Kickstarter, which is still a good thing. We learned a lot about communication and me getting over a couple of my, I guess, weaknesses or fears. Not really fear, but maybe just a weakness of going out and making ask to people, which was a big thing for me. I was like, yeah, I don't really like asking people for things. And at that point, it was like, yeah, I got to get over that to get this done. I got to get
Yeah. It's interesting, JoCari. So as our conversation here has unfolded, one of the two biggest mistakes that I see so many early stage entrepreneurs make is, number one, they don't spend enough time in interviewing and asking questions of prospective customers. They don't do that. They think they've got the idea. They think that they've got the problem solved. And so they don't go to the audience and really figure out what they want. So you've overcome that, and that's been fantastic. And look at the product you have today. And what's even going to be interesting, JoCari, is even what future iterations of Besk look like. I've got a feeling it's only going to keep on getting better and better and better. But then the other one is getting over that fear of asking. A lot of folks are afraid to do that. And that's also where I see many early stage companies flounder and not get to where they could be. It's not because they haven't done the research or they haven't done they've got a great idea. They're just afraid to ask for it. They're afraid to go put themselves out there. And so the fact that you've recognized and been able to correct both of those things is fantastic. And, it's just a model for anybody else that's just getting started. Those things, actually, they are scary, right? Because you've got this idea, it's something that's very close to your heart, and you've got this idea and you don't want it to fail, right? And putting yourself out there with that opportunity of maybe somebody telling you, well, that's a stupid idea. Who would ever want to do that? That hurts. So there is some fear there, but it's the only way to go forward. So kudos to you for doing that. Now, with Kickstarter, you said that you had to drive your own traffic to the site to do that, rather than relying on Kickstarter's own marketing or however they go about choosing who they feature, push to the top, or whatever. Tell us a little bit about how you got enough people viewing Besk on Kickstarters in order to get it fully funded.
That's a great question and great thing to talk about. So I have to rewind for a couple years. When I first initiated, created JoBé Products, I knew Besk was going to be our primary product, first primary product, but I would have to gain a following of people. Mm-hmm. So I created a couple social media accounts, and I started to sell apparel, shirts, hoodies, and things like that, just to get some brand recognition and gain some followers on our social media platforms, and let everybody know every time you buy a shirt is going toward the development of our product, Besk. So our following on social media isn't all that great, but the thing is, we don't have a large quantity, but our quality of followers is great. So I think we have barely over 400 or 500 followers on Instagram, but I'd say at least 90% of those people, while we were selling shirts, knew that money was going toward development of the backpack. So we wanted to create a following. So when we started to try to raise money and crowdfund, we had people to put it in front of who were excited about the product, who would be willing to pre-order it. So that's pretty much how we initially drove it, by pre-orders, to get that really quick start. Mm-hmm. And we had an early bird discount. After that, we had to figure out a way to do some more marketing. I joined competed in a couple pitch competitions, which will help promote our brand, the product, get a lot of people seeing what we're doing, and gain some traction around our Kickstarter as well.
Yeah, gotcha. JoCari, it was interesting because you and I was introduced to you by Nathan, I believe, or Austin, one of them. I'd never even heard of your product before. And then you and I had that initial conversation, and we talked, and I invited you to come on and be today's speaker. And then you had the opportunity to pitch in our pitch competition, and you won that thing. So that's so cool that here's JoBé, that even before I knew you were even going to be in the pitch competition, I'd invited you to speak, and then you won it, and here you are. So what a really cool thing. So hopefully in some way you got some visibility, from the pitch competition, it helped, and things like that. So, so I'm curious, are you going to try and go on and compete at the global Startup Grind pitch competition? How is that going? What's that process like? Just out of curiosity.
Definitely. We're still applying for a lot of pitch competitions.
Okay.
But the Global Startup Grind pitch competition is one of our main ones that we want to compete in for sure.
Okay.
That was one of the rewards from winning the local.
Sure.
So we're trying to prepare for that with a totally new, redesigned Besk, which we're plan on using the funds from Kickstarter to make. So we have an engineer on our team now, so we don't have to rely on my own engineering, homemade engineering. And now we have complete CAD models and 3D renderings and all that stuff. So now we're just waiting for a couple of the Kickstarter funds to come in so we can order these pieces to the newer prototype. That'll be a lot closer to the final design people will get, to give people a better idea of what the product will look like, the weight, the capacity, storage, and height.
Gotcha. So that actually is a perfect segue to my next question. And that was, or is what is next for JoBé Products. So you've got the people that have done the initial pre-orders. It sounds like you're using that funding to go in and do the initial round of production. When do you expect for the initial products to ship to the folks in, just really what's next for you guys?
Mm-hmm. So our deadline that we put on ourselves in Kickstarter is everyone gets their Besk if they order one by August 2021. Our goal is definitely to exceed that.
Mm-hmm.
That was just with a pillow if we needed more time to make things happen, and we had to develop the product a little bit further. With that, we have quite a few different iterations of Besk drawn up. So once we get the initial one out, we want to continue to develop not personalized, but more best tailored toward different things. So maybe tailored toward a high school student or a college student, more of an entrepreneur, remote worker. I know they all have their own special needs that they have. So we want to tailor stuff like that. And we also have other inventions that we'll probably be working on in the future once we free up some time for our engineer.
Sure. It's interesting when you were talking about this product. So I've got 3 boys. My oldest son's a varsity football player. My middle son's a middle school football player. But I can see on days when they've got game days or whether, they've got that 45 minutes in between when school lets out and practice, where something like the Besk product would be perfect for high school kids, especially high school athletes that, are going to and from practice and stuff like that. So I could see there's certainly being a need for that. Now, in your product pipeline, do you ever see an opportunity where, let's say, a school or a college or, Microsoft or some big entity like that could even come in and personalize the Besk backpacks to make it, have their logo and stuff like that? Is that anywhere in the idea or pipeline for you all?
Definitely. We want to get Besk to a point where we see that there are people that's wanting it and potentially get them licensed out to schools who want to put like their own logos on them, maybe potentially sell them in their own bookstores, to the point where, let's say, with all the remote work going on now, and a lot of job sites are supplying what their workers need to work from home, such as computers, webcams, different software. And this could just be another tool that they can offer their employees to make sure that they have that workspace. Because like right now, we have 3 people working from home. Well, 2 people working from home, and then a 1-year-old running around who also does a little bit of work himself. And we see that we only had 1 desk, and we're both working from home. So luckily, I have prototypes of Besk that I can work outside or on the balcony or on the couch with. And I feel like that's just a great opportunity to help people as well, because growing up, I didn't have a desk in any house I ever had until I think my first desk was in college, which was in my dorm.
Wow.
And I just feel like this is just a great opportunity to help students where they would be using this product every day in the form of a backpack and have the opportunity to come home, whether it's just their bedroom, sit on their bed and get their homework done and put everything back inside and set up for the next day. Just so they have like that place that's theirs to get work done, that they don't have to rely on a separate organized space to try to get some work done.
That's a great idea, JoCari. And, I never even thought of Besk being used for that purpose, but I mean, that's a fantastic idea. When I was thinking about this, it was outside of the park or whatever, but you're right. There's a lot of kids who don't have that space and could love to have that in their room or something like that. So with that being said, do you see having like, a junior Besk, elementary Besk, depending on the age of the person using it? Is it going to be separated out by size like that?
Definitely. So I'm pretty big into the outdoors. So I know that backpacks need to be have specifics for certain size people. You don't want to put the best that I have right now on to an elementary school student. Yeah. So we want to come out with different sizes that are appropriate in weight and length for someone of that size to make sure that it's okay for their bodies, while supplying as much space as they may need to get their work done anywhere. So we definitely take that into consideration, and we want to make sure we have those variances within the different size Besk for different size people or different age groups.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. All right, so let me ask you this. So I've got some questions coming in here, and I want to make sure we get to those. We've got about 15 minutes left. So once you've commercialized the Besk, what's in your product idea pipeline? Do you see different accessories coming for Besk? What else is there? I know you talked a little bit, but anything you can share that may be coming down the pike?
Oh, definitely. So with a product like this that's tailored to helping people be more productive, we want to make sure we want to have accessories to also help with that. So there will be an introductory price, and then there will be other prices where we add different accessories. One that we're probably going to add in that we're working on is a power bank. If you're working remotely from anywhere, you want to make sure your stuff stays charged up. So we're still working on who we want to go through to make that happen. We have to take into consideration the size, the weight, where we're going to store it at in the Besk. And we also have other accessories, depending on the location where you're using Besk, that could help out a lot. So we're still working on those. But yeah, we have quite a few accessories that we want to potentially add on, or have the ability for people to add on to personalize their Besk as well. So we will have customized Besk as well. So whether it's on the Kickstarter, we allow people to embroider names or logos that they want. And we're also working on personalized colors as well. So it's not always just black.
Okay, gotcha. So let's talk about manufacturing a little bit. This question came in. Do you plan to outsource manufacturing as sales increase? Will you build a manufacturing company? Who's going to take care of actually building the product for you?
So right now, what we're going to do, we're trying to keep as much stuff local as possible, taking into, but we also want to make sure we survive as a business and we're making money and profit. So most of the large pieces initially are probably going to be done in the U.S. and some actually done in Louisville, which would be pretty cool. We get to cut down on some shipping costs if it's done in Louisville, because shipping is not fun when you get in large orders of heavy stuff. Yeah. And we have a couple pieces that we're probably going to outsource to potentially other countries, just because it's more cost effective that way. And what we plan on is getting pieces of our Besk from different areas and assemble them here in Louisville. So eventually we'll probably have to buy a physical location to do that, but we're going to have to wait till we grow into that.
Sure. Okay. So this is also a great segue to this next question, and that is, how do you plan to finance your business post Kickstarters? Are you going to try and do it organically just from the growth of the product? Are you looking for angel investors to really get more capital and to spin up your operations? What's the plan for that?
So what we plan to do is, luckily Kickstarter gave us a little bit of a pillow, because we just been pretty much running on our own wallets until now. And what we want to do is finalize the design of Besk to show what it's really going to be, and then potentially look for outside funding, whether it's through a venture capitalist or even a loan potentially. But we're also going to try to pursue pre-ordering as well, which is pretty much what we did with the Kickstarter. Once we finish our design and then kind of post it and see how many people will be interested in pre-ordering that, we want to try that as well. But we know when it comes to tooling costs for brand new products, they're pretty expensive. So we have to figure out our way to go through that. And we've journeyed back and forth where we want to go through investing or investments or loans, maybe competing in more competitions to try to get some more money in. But we know that amount is probably going to be pretty large, so we're definitely open to talking to investors as well.
Gotcha. So who's doing all the marketing for you all right now? Are you doing that? Do you have a team member that's helping? What's happening to really get the message out there?
So as of right now, we're a team of three. Myself, we have a Marine veteran as well, who's our COO, and we have a University of Kentucky graduate who's our engineer. We all wear pretty much almost every single hat that we can, being a team of three. But I say primarily the marketing is my task. Out of all three of us, I say I'm probably the most people person that we have. So, and I enjoy talking to people and trying to figure out what people like, trying out new things. Our COO also helps adjust things to try to figure out what's the best target market if we want to promote products online. How do we go about that? Who do we try to get interested? Because we saw during the Kickstarter, our market that we wanted to, or the people that we wanted to market our post to, wasn't necessarily always going to be college students who may not have a lot of money to contribute to a Kickstarter for a product that they'll get next year. So we had kind of rethink how we wanted to do stuff like that. But it's mostly on all three of us. We all work together on pretty much every aspect.
Okay, gotcha. So final question, do you see once this thing starts to scale a little bit, you got some product sales happening, are you going to try and do this through your own website? Do you ever see going to Amazon, trying to push the product through that? What's your kind of distribution model and thought process at this point?
I know we want to grow pretty organic, so we'll probably start out initially just using our own website to promote our products, and maybe partner with a couple people to push our products as well. If we see that get into a mainstream marketplace such as Walmart or Amazon could be beneficial for us, and that's where our target market likes to shop, then definitely. We just have to make sure the pros outweigh the cons, and we're looking at those avenues for sure. But we just want to make sure our product placement is where it needs to be, because if we're not selling to outdoors people and we're in Dick's Sporting Goods or Bass Pro Shops, that's not really going to benefit us. So we want to make sure, which is one of our target markets, because outdoorsmen have money too. But we just want to make sure where our product is being placed and put in front of people in places that are target market and potential customers will actually see it and shop.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, JoCari, we're coming to the end of our time here, but I just want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing this story. This is such an inspirational message for a person that's got an idea, wants to get started in business, and how you just grind through it because you've done that. You've found a way just by grit and sheer determination to get where you are today. And those lessons are going to help you so much as you go forward. So I applaud you for the things you've overcome through sticking through, failing the Kickstarter course, coming back and getting it right. How about that? Here it is, funding your product, right? I mean, there's so many lessons here and so many nuggets of wisdom for anybody that's just getting started, because all too often people quit too soon. It gets challenging. They face this roadblock or that roadblock and they quit. They don't keep going. And there certainly is a time to quit and say, hey, we gave this everything we had. This isn't product market fit. We need to go do something else. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're not there yet. And you kept going where you keep moving the ball forward. And I love the inspirational message on that, JoCari. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I look forward to seeing what you and your team do with Besk, the innovation, and how it can make an impact, because I can really see this helping a lot of school-age kids, especially underprivileged kids who may not have a desk, a place to work, or whatever. So I see this being able to solve a lot of problems and help a lot of folks too. So thank you for your time today. So just as we're wrapping up, I do want to announce our event coming up in October. We're going to be doing a diversity panel in October. It's going to be on October 14th, another Wednesday. It's going to be from 12 to 1. Right now, we've got 3 folks confirmed for this. We've got Dr. Angelique Johnson coming on board. We've got Shane Howard coming on board. Natalia Bishop with Story Louisville is going to be sharing her perspective. And we're looking to get a couple more people into this because there's so much opportunity out there. And we want to make sure that diverse people are being able to share their stories, their challenges, and the opportunities that are there. And this is part of a Startup Grind global initiative to really shine a spotlight on diversity, how we can do better as a startup community, how organizations can do better, and really just helping to pave the path for anybody who's got a business idea to be able to make that come to fruition, to put in the effort and make those things happen. So be looking for more information about our event coming up on October 14th. And again, I do want to give a big thank you to our sponsors for this event, Amplify being our annual sponsor, and then also Citation Labs for being one of our local partners. And so again, this event is being recorded. It is going to be available on the Louisville Startup Grind webpage, but also this is going to be available on the Global Startup Grind local channel as well. And this is one that I'm really going to encourage people to come and watch just because there's so much wisdom that JoCari shared today. So, and also this is the first time using the Beattie platform to host this virtual event. So lessons have been learned and hopefully it's going to be smoother for everybody next time, and we'll do a better job of communicating how to get access to it. So, but for those of you who were able to join us today, thank you so much. I want to give a big shout out to our team, Lisa Bajornes, Austin Lopez-Vero, and Jordan Turner for all their hard work to make Startup Grind Louisville happen. Very grateful for them. And actually in November, we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary for Startup Grind being active in Louisville again. So we're very excited about that and look forward to serving the community for many years to come. So thank you all very much for being here. Again, JoCari, thank you for your time, and I wish you much success in the future. So thank you so much.
You.
All right, everybody, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.